It was late Friday afternoon when I got the call from my husband, Mark. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner, my hands deep in soapy water when my phone buzzed on the counter. I wiped my hands on a towel and picked up. "Hey, babe," I answered cheerfully. "You remember I told you that Evan might stop by this weekend?" Mark said on the other end. "Well, he just confirmed. He'll be in town tonight and staying until Sunday evening." Evan, my brother-in-law, was Mark's younger brother. He lived in Denver and hadn't visited us in nearly a year. The last time we saw him was during Thanksgiving, and even then, he didn't stay long. I always liked Evan. He was a bit of a free spirit, the kind of guy who went hiking on the weekends and backpacked across countries during the summers. He was also incredibly charming, which was probably why he was still single at 32. "That's great," I replied, mentally going over what we had in the pantry. "I'll get the guest room ready." By the time Evan arrived that evening, the house was warm with the scent of roasted chicken and garlic mashed potatoes. I opened the door to see him standing there with his usual broad grin, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder. "Hey, Sarah," he said, stepping inside and giving me a quick hug. "Place smells amazing." "It's good to see you," I smiled, taking his bag. "You're staying in the guest room at the end of the hall, same as last time." Mark came out from the living room, arms wide. "There's my brother." They embraced, laughing and slapping each other's backs the way men do when they haven't seen each other in a while. It warmed my heart to see them together. Evan had always looked up to Mark, and even though they were years apart, their bond remained strong. Dinner was easygoing and filled with laughter. Evan told us stories about his recent trip to the Pacific Northwest, where he'd gone kayaking with a group of friends. He described the scenery with such vivid detail. I felt like I could see the mist rising off the water and the sunlight cutting through the trees. Mark and I listened intently, occasionally asking questions and exchanging amused glances at Evan's more colorful descriptions. After dinner, we all settled in the living room with glasses of wine. The conversation drifted from travel to work to old memories from their childhood. I loved hearing about their upbringing, the pranks they pulled on each other, the small-town adventures, their parents' strict but loving household. Eventually, the clock struck midnight, and I stifled a yawn. "I'm turning in," I said, standing up and stretching. "You two can keep chatting, but I need my beauty sleep." "Old age catching up with you, huh?" Evan teased with a wink. I rolled my eyes and laughed. "Good night, boys." Saturday morning started with the smell of pancakes and coffee. Mark had taken the rare initiative to make breakfast, and I came downstairs to see both brothers already sitting at the kitchen island, talking quietly over steaming mugs. "Morning, sunshine." Mark grinned as I walked in, planting a kiss on my cheek. "Morning," I said, grabbing a plate and joining them. The plan for the day was simple. Mark had a few errands to run, and Evan wanted to tag along. I decided to stay home and catch up on laundry and some long overdue cleaning. Before they left, Evan looked over his shoulder and said, "Let me know if you need help with anything, Sarah. I owe you for the hospitality." "Will do," I said, smiling. By mid-afternoon, the house was quiet again. I had just finished folding a mountain of clothes when I noticed the downstairs sink leaking. Great, I thought, just what I needed. I tried tightening the pipe underneath, but ended up making it worse. Frustrated, I was about to call a plumber when I heard the front door open. Evan walked in, a paper bag in hand. "Hey, Mark, want to pick up something from the hardware store. Thought I'd come back early. What's up?" I showed him the leak, and without hesitation, he crouched under the sink. "Let me take a look. I'm not an expert, but I've fixed a few things like this in my place." To my surprise, he was quick and efficient. Within 20 minutes, the leak was gone, and the sink was working perfectly. "You're a lifesaver," I said gratefully. He wiped his hands on a rag and looked up at me. "Nah, just a guy with a wrench and too much confidence." We laughed, and I offered him a cold drink. We ended up sitting on the back porch, sipping lemonade and talking. I told him more about my work, my hobbies, and how Mark and I met in college. Evan listened attentively, asking questions and occasionally sharing thoughtful insights. The conversation turned more personal. "You and Mark seem really solid," he said after a pause. "It's nice to see. Not Everyone has that. We've had our ups and downs, I admitted. But we make it work. He's my best friend. Evan nodded, then looked out at the backyard. That's what I want. One day. We sat in silence for a few moments, comfortable and easy. Eventually, Mark returned, and the evening unfolded with takeout, a movie, and the familiar feeling of family togetherness. Evan made us laugh until we were crying, and when it was time to turn in, I found myself wishing the weekend wouldn't pass so quickly. Sunday came and went in a blur. We all went out for brunch at a local cafe, strolled through the park, and spent the afternoon lounging around the house. Evan helped Mark install a new shelf in the garage and even mowed the lawn, insisting it was the least he could do. That evening, as we helped Evan pack up his things, I felt a pang of sadness. It was strange how just a few days of someone's presence could shift the energy in a home. Don't be a stranger, I said, hugging him at the door. Promise, he said, holding the hug just a moment longer than expected. Thanks for everything, Sarah. You've been amazing. Mark shook his hand, pulled him in for another bro hug. Drive safe, man. And just like that, he was gone. That night, as Mark and I lay in bed, I couldn't help but feel like Evan's visit had brought something unspoken into our lives, a reminder of connection, of simplicity, of appreciating the small things. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about how people come and go, but the moments they leave behind often stay with us much longer.